Welcome to Maya Expressions Part 3. I think some of you might be a bit disappointed when you see that we're going to be dealing with 3D cubes again. Let's try and make this thing a little bit more interesting by dealing with colors, okay? So the thing that we're going to do this time around is let's use another object to drive this cube to change color. So what we're going to do is to test for the vertical position of this NURBS circle, translate Y. When it goes above 0, we're going to change the color of this cube. When it goes below 0, we're going to change the color of this cube to something else. Let me introduce you to the Hypershade, which is Windows, Rendering Editor, and Hypershade. So Hypershade has a lot to do with shaders and connections to shaders, but it actually also can show relationship between geometry, constraints, controllers, attributes, and such. Most of the time I work with Hypershade, although in Maya 2016, 14, 15 and above, you get this new node editor, which also shows nodes and their relationship. And in 2016 and above, Hypershade is more geared towards shaders and shading networks. But now in this demo, I'm going to be working solely in Hypershade. Let's create a Lambert shader for our polycube. Middle drag this new Lambert 2 to my polycube, and to check that it's now assigned to Lambert 2 and not the default Lambert 1, let's move this and change some colors, and you'll begin to see that this cube also changes color with my Lambert 2 and not Lambert 1. Okay, when I double click this Lambert 2, I get this attribute editor. Attribute editor is sort of a graphic user, sort of a graphic interface with sliders and values as well. But if I go back to my channel box, I can see that this Lambert 2 has attributes that are mostly numeric, right? So since we're dealing with expressions, and expressions works with values most of the time, you can see that my yellow color is actually, it's a combination of components of red, green, and blue. We can achieve any color that we want in this spectrum of colors. Okay, in any hue, any saturation, and any values of brightness. So a value of red in the channel box would actually be the red component of 1, which means the full each of this component has a color value of 0 to 1. So when it's 1, it's sort of full, and when it's 0, it's 0. So if it's 0, 0, 0 in red, green, and blue, it's actually black. So black is the lack of any of the colors. So if green is 1, you can see that this full green. When blue is 1, it's pure blue. Okay, but red and blue, you get magenta or purple. Green and blue, you get cyan. Okay, and so on and so forth. Let's carry on with doing what we set out to do, which is using the Y position of our NURBS circle to drive the color that controls the cube. So we're now going to going to our familiar expression editor and find out what Maya calls this internal name for translate Y. So NURBS cube, NURBS circle, and translate Y. So I'm going to copy this. Okay. Then I'm going to select this Lambert 2, and some attributes needs to receive the result of the expression and be driven, right? So let's do color red first. And once I select this Lambert 2, it updates here, and we do see color red here. So when I click on this Maya will tell me the internal name that's being referred to in the color red attribute of Lambert 2. So under this expression, I'm going to paste Control V, whatever I copied from the internal name of the NURBS circle, translate Y. Then I'm gonna copy this and paste this here like that. So I'm not gonna execute this because this is not gonna make any sense. So I'm just gonna create a comment like that first. and then I create this. So if I list my expression by name, this new expression is called expression 1, and here I have my sort of note taking referring to these two attributes that I need to connect together. Yeah, so when I see Lambert 2, nothing has changed into purple. That means nothing has been driven by the expression yet. Again, back to our conditional. If we sort of recall what we learned from our conditions in part 1 and part 2 of Maya expressions, we need to look at this master that drives this expression. So when y is less than or equals to 0, so that's the internal name for our controller, y is lesser or equals to 0. Okay, let's make the cube red when it's below 0. Okay, so the cube's color red will be equal to 1.0. Okay, so end of statement. So when we hit edit, this cube becomes red. Then when we go above 0, nothing happens because we did not specify what would happen when this condition appears. So let's go ahead and modify this. So if y is greater than 1, let the color red be 0. Okay, so edit. So you can see that maybe something is wrong because our controller now is greater than 0. This condition should not be kicking in. This condition maybe this condition should kick in, but it's not happening. The color did not turn to black. Okay, so what is happening? So let me introduce you to one of the tools that I always use. It is more a technique than a tool. What you should do is to open your script editor from here. Okay, this is the, if you don't have this UI element in your Maya, you can always bring it up with UI elements and command line. Okay, so if I click that, it hides itself and it's not checked. So if you're missing that command line UI element, what you can do is just display UI element and click on command line, and you bring it back up again, and then you can click this one, which brings you up to script editor. So script editor gives us feedback of what we've been doing. So if I move something, it tells me that, oh, I'm moving my current object to 0.04 by an amount of 0.04, and then if I move upwards, it says that I'm moving it upwards by an amount of 0.1. Okay, so on and so forth. If I click edit to update my expression, my script editor tells me that, oh, I have sort of update my expression with whatever I've typed in my expression editor, and I have no warnings, so my expression is valid, right? One of the things that we can do to troubleshoot, we want to know whether this block of condition and action did execute or did it not execute. Maybe because this is red, even when our controller is driving this expression and it is positive number, so did this run did this this color is still red, so did this run instead, or did this one not run? Okay, one of the very common things that I use is the print statement. So I'm gonna do print. Okay, so an end of statement, we need this semicolon, and then followed by open quote and close quotes, and then type what we want to print inside. So hello. Okay, so when we do that and we update our expression, you can see that, oh, the expression is updated and hello / result. So for every time this expression is run, Maya is going to print hello to my script editor. So whenever I move my controller, the value changes, the expression is evaluated, and you can see hello sort of adding on horizontally one after another. I was expecting something to scroll down and have a new line every time this hello is executed. So how do we do that? So Maya doesn't add a new line for us after each print, so we have to add a new line ourselves, and the way we do that is to do a \n. Okay, so please note that this is backslash and not the /. So after I add that \n, which tells Maya this is a new line, print a new line at the end of hello, and add it. Now let's try and drag this, and you can see that it's adding a new line after every hello. So you know that every hello is one complete run of this expression. So expressions are executed really rapidly, okay? And the fact that we're printing out stuff actually slows the expression, the evaluation down, because Maya has to take time to update this script editor and just scroll and push everything upwards, okay? So this is what I call troubleshoot and diagnostic. So we can print out stuff that makes Maya tell us more about whether it entered this block of execution or it did not. Okay, so what we want to do is paste this print to tell ourselves when something runs whether this block of code ran. So I want to say that if when this condition executes, I want to say translate y is below 0. Okay, change red is equals to 1 to 1.0 with a new line. Okay, so then add it. When it executes and updates that expression, nothing happens. And when I move while my translate y is in positive, you can see that this statement did not get print out. So that means that every time it updates, whenever we change our value, Maya is skipping this statement. That is because the translate y of our NURB circle at this point is greater than 0, and it is not lesser than 0, therefore this is skipped. Now if we move our controller, our driver, downwards to below 0 in the negative, you can see that immediately Maya prints out our statement. So this is correct. When it falls below 0, it is below 0, and it's changing this red component to 1.0. But what happened when we get above 1? We want to know whether this block of condition executed or not. So let's duplicate this print statement and say that it's above 0. Now the red is changed into 0.0. Okay, so now let's sort of move this guy around a little bit, and yet this statement, we know that it did not run because I did not get a printout of this above 0 message. So at this point, I'm certain our problem now is when it gets above 0, this block did not run. Okay, so let's do something. Let's move this translate y to when it's beyond 1. Okay, when we get too much printout, we can hit this button, which is clear history, clear this part of the message, and it's sort of started to execute this block where it says that translate y is above 0, and the red component is now changed to 0 and the red is gone. So right now, using our print statements, is very clear to me that I have mistakenly put this as 1. That changing to 0 and taking away the red only kicked in when my translate y is above 1. When I go back now to below 1, nothing changed, nothing happened until I reach below 0, where this block is executed again. So between when this controller is beneath 0, and when this controller is 1, between that value range, nothing happened. So now it's clear to me that I made a mistake. I should not be doing this only when the controller is above 1. It needs to be immediately kicking in when it's above 0. So we accounted for when this controller is 0 and below, but once it crosses 0 into the positive, we want this black to kick in, right? So before that I had 1. So let's try this. Change this to above 0, and then this kick in. So edit. So now when we go beneath 0, color red is changed to 1.0, and now when we go above 0, immediately, even at 0.09, it set color red to 0, so there's no more red element. So now we want, in the absence of this color red, when the controller is above 0, we want this cube to turn green. Okay, so now let's talk about this color green. So when this color red is in force, okay, when we go beneath, we want color green to color G to be 0, to not exist and not kick in. Okay, then when this controller goes above, when red disappears, we want green to be full value, which is 1.0. So edit. So now when we go beneath 0, it changes to red. When we go above 0, it changes to green, right? And you can see that when I do this really fast, there is some lagging in the printout. Maya is actually slowing down because of our print statement. So now that we are 100% sure that our expression is working, I can now comment out this print, okay, and edit. Now when I drag it and change colors, you can see that the execution is much faster. Okay, let's clear this history. You can see that the execution is instantaneous. This printout is just for diagnostic to show us here what's happening. Okay, so now I don't need this too, and update my expression, and there we have color switching. And I hope this lesson now is interesting for you, that we can see that expressions is not just driving positions, rotations, translations, but it can drive anything that has a value. In Maya, almost everything has a value. So even true or false, like visibility on and off, are also values. When visibility is on, it's actually 1. Okay, when visibility is off and you key in 0, it disappears and it hides it in the viewport. So it is still a value of 1 and 0. Okay, so I hope that you learned something this lesson. I am Patrick. I will see you in the next expressions 4.